Hey y'all, so I was holding space in the healing circle and then my power went out. So um, I decided to hop on here and do some market research because I have a question. So I just made my tea. I just premiered the latest episode of The Frolicking Truth over on YouTube. And we have, when it premieres, we have a chat. So I just finished hanging out with folks in the chat. And then I was doing the healing circle, and then my power went out. So I was like, well, let me at least try to make use of the little charge that I have and hop on and ask some questions because I really am trying to create safe spaces for people. Hey y'all. And my question that I am wondering about today is what makes a space safe for you? Like, how do you define that? Because it's going to be really important for us. It's already important, but it's going to be even more important for us to have safe spaces, especially if you are a Black woman, a Black person. It's going to be really, really important for us to have spaces that we are able to share and honor and name and strategize and all of those things. So I wanted to ask y'all that. And I'm sipping my tea. I've really gotten into tea lately. I've gotten into plant medicine, basically, is what happened in herbalism and all of that. Um, so I'm sipping my tea while we're here. So I feel like I can just be myself and not filter my words and thoughts. Okay, so I want to ask a follow up with that. So, what conditions have to be in place in the space for you to feel like you are able to show up unfiltered and share your thoughts? Like, what types of things do you have to see, feel, experience to say, okay, I feel safe showing up that way? I hope that made sense. Hey, Juan. Um, so yeah, I this is a topic for me that is really, really important because some of you all may know my story, some of you may not. But when I was in Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania is the reason why I left the US. And because I work in education, I work in school improvement. So I saw a lot of the things that were happening in education before they started happening. And it was very much world shattering, shifting. So I found a safe space, like someone told me about this safe space, this circle that I could go to, and they literally saved my life. And for a long time now, of a couple years now, I've been saying to myself, like, I have to pay that forward because had it not been for me getting to that circle of people, I wouldn't be here. And I know that. So I have been doing a lot of community building behind the scenes, and I'm just trying to be intentional in carving out these spaces as well as protecting these spaces so that I can also be a place where people can come to and have a sense of relief and exhale. So I wanted to ask, like I said, what that looks like for you all if you are like, how do you know that a safe is space a space is safe around like-minded people with similar experiences, thoughts, beliefs? I feel a warmth and not judged. Thank you, Alex. I do my best. Like I said, I know safe spaces have saved me, but I have also incurred harm by being in spaces. there was actually someone that I had met here on this app that I was partnering with, and we were doing a podcast, and like I was really excited about it. And then come to find out the space was not safe. And one thing for me is I'm not about, I carry my own experiences, but I also carry the experiences of other people with me. So when I enter spaces, I'm always thinking about how would this land on me? How would it land on somebody like me? How would it land on somebody who has different experiences than me? Like that's how I enter into spaces. And this particular space was said, oh, this is a safe space for neurodivergent people and spiritual people and all of that. And it wasn't. It was a very harmful space. So I am wanting to be intentional and consistent in making sure that I don't do that to someone else, even if it is unintentionally. So I'm consistently collecting experiences and consistently asking those questions because we can cause harm unintended. You know, we can have the best intentions and create a negative impact. So I'm really aware of that. So I take a lot of careful planning when I'm bringing people together, when I am soliciting people's voices. Like, I really try to be very thoughtful in that because I know that the work that I am doing is so important, and I don't ever want that work to get lost in the messaging. And I've had to do a lot of work on this, just full transparency, because back in the day, okay, I was not the person that was holding space for people's feelings at all. I was very much a feelings suppressor back in the day. I remember hosting meetings and um being like, we what are you, because okay, so let me give context. So I was the science department head at the school, this particular school that I worked at, and we were a turnaround school. So we were a school that was in danger of failing and being taken over, and these are the kind of schools that I always worked at. And I was over the department, and our science scores needed to improve. So we have to look at data to be able to improve those scores and really make sure that we're targeting things correctly. So I was very much at the time mission and focus driven, and very much time on task, right? Because the other thing in education is you never have enough time. I don't, it just, you just never do. And it's set up in a way where many teachers have to take work home, and they have to sacrifice time with their family. They have to sacrifice their own lives to be able to show up for the children. So I was very much like, time on task. We ain't got time for all that. Hey, did you hear the question I asked you? I need you to answer that. Like, I was very much that person. And some of my teachers can tell you from back in the day, like, I didn't have empathy. And that's not true. I had empathy, but I very much also had a very important job to do, and I realized how important the job was. So I allowed that to put me in a place to squash people's feelings, their real and legitimate feelings and emotions and their lived experiences and all of that. And I probably didn't realize that until I left the classroom and started mentoring new teachers. And then at that time, like, I would roll in there and it's like, all right, let's talk about this math. Let's talk about your planning. Let's talk about asking good questions, you know, and then their whole life is falling apart. And they're like, I don't, hey, I don't know nothing about what you talk about right now. So that's also my origin story for how I became a life coach, because I realized that I had to honor their humanity, and I had to make space for their feelings and their legitimate concerns, as a new teacher and many, I'm so grateful I continue to be able to coach teachers because it gives me very clear pulse of what is happening and what people are experiencing. But I remember what it was like to be a new teacher walking fresh off the street and having no idea what these people talking about, and they're using all these acronyms and you're like, I don't know what any of this means. I remember that. So through that process of coaching teachers, it helped me to create space for emotions and thoughts and feelings. And of course, I had to do that for myself because I also wasn't honoring my own feelings and I wasn't honoring my own thoughts. I was operating like I was a machine, and we are not machines, no matter how much we might think we are or how much we try to be, we're not. So I said all that to say, when I'm creating spaces and when I'm creating what the people be calling containers, when I'm creating opportunities for community and opportunities for people to feel like they can show up as their full selves and not have to censor themselves and all of that, I'm considering so much, because even when we say like-minded, you have to know how someone's mind is to know if it's like. So again, if I don't ask the right questions, or if I'm not in the perfect situation to figure out that someone is not like-minded, it can cause harm. So yeah. So that's what I am doing the research on. So please feel free to share in the chat or in the comments about what you need to feel that a space is safe. Like, what dynamics need to be in play? What type of test do you do in your own mind to tell yourself, yes, this is a safe place, yes, this is not? I was talking to one of my interns the other day, and they were saying that they were in like a real stressful situation, and they felt like somebody was like pressuring them and making them have to make a decision really, really quickly. And they said, they were like, I just remembered I could hear you in the back of my mind saying, I need you to breathe, and I need you to think about how you feel in your mind and your body. And then they said, and when I did that, I knew that I needed to get out of that place. I knew that I needed to go to a different place. That for me is something that is supremely important. Like, we have to know how to trust ourselves. And because we spend so much time being told that our natural feelings and thoughts are wrong, we have learned to not trust ourselves. We've learned to gaslight ourselves. We've learned to downplay the things that we are feeling. I was meeting with another teacher the other day, and they were telling me just about some things. People was moving funny, and they were like, but maybe it's just me. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's just me. And then they told me something else, and then they were like, well, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Like, every time they would name what they were legitimately feeling, the next statement was discounting that. And what I said to them was, I need you to honor what you are telling me that you are feeling. I need you to put respect on that. And like I said, the situation was around people moving funny. And I was like, I can't tell you what to do in this situation. What I can tell you is that you know what you want to do in this situation, and I need you to honor that. So I really gave the power back over to them, because when we aren't trusting ourselves, we're constantly looking for somebody else to validate what we are thinking and validate our decision, and let me run this by you, and all of that. And that is damaging, because there's going to come a point where you are going to have to save yourself, and you need to know that you are making the decision that is best for yourself. You need to know, I am listening to what God, my spirit, the universe, whatever your guiding force is telling me. Like, I'm listening to that. I know that I've heard what I'm supposed to do. I understand the steps. You are going to have to trust yourself. So we have to like start taking back that trust. And, after I told them that, they were like, thank you for saying that. Like, I could hear them, kind of like tearing up a little bit. And, they were like, thank you for saying that. And I'm like, you're welcome. And I need you to carry that with you, and especially as a teacher in today's climate, there's going to be a lot that educators are being pressed to do, in lines that they are being pressed to cross. There's going to be a lot of that is happening, and you have to know in your own spirit like where your line is. So on the Frolicking Truth, I believe it was episode 8, we talked about where's the line? Like, where is the line that you draw for how far you're going to be pushed? That kind of stuff is really important for us to know, because the line is constantly being pushed. Like, every day is being pushed. And it's not even being pushed by like millimeters right now. Right now it's being pushed by freaking football fields at a time. So as you're watching that, you have to be honest with yourself about, okay, this is what this is making me feel. This is what this is making me think. This is what the actions that I feel like I need to do, or the planning that I feel like I need to do. Like, you have to reconnect with yourself, right? And you can only do that when you feel safe to do so. So that is the work that I do, is I help people to calm their nervous systems and reconnect to their brain and to their heart and to their spirit, so that you are able to create a safe space for your own self, and a safe space that allows you to honor how you're actually feeling. I call it emotional integrity. So even here with a comment that said, being around like-minded people with similar experience, thoughts, beliefs, a feeling of warmth and being not judged. My question would be, am I giving warmth to myself? Do I really know what that feels like? Am I creating a non-judgmental environment for myself? Am I giving myself empathy? Am I honoring my lived experiences? Or am I in a space where my self-talk is so trash? And my self-talk is, telling me what I should do. And, you should show up like this and you should show up like that. Or, you shouldn't do this. Or am I just creating space for the totality of myself, so that I'm able to look at things from a holistic lens? To me, that is what a safe space looks like. A safe space for me looks like a space filled with curiosity. My life motto at this point is curiosity over judgment. And I feel like we can go so far if we're genuinely curious in how someone thinks, like how their brain works, the lived experiences that have gotten them to the point of thinking and feeling certain ways. I think that if we can approach our relationships and approach situations with curiosity, that we will find our way to the answers that we need. I call them brain field trips, is what I call them, because I be talking about my brain people all the time. So when you take a brain field trip, it is your spirit like guiding your brain down this path, and you don't try to control it. I believe that many answers are found in brain field trips, because that's your spirit unlimited. Like, you're not trying to rein it in. You're not trying to control it. Like, you're just like, all right, we're getting on this bus today. Let's see where we wind up, type of thing. And that's really powerful because sometimes consciously we don't know the steps that we're supposed to take, but our spirit does. Our spirit does. And I believe that God showed us our life before we accepted this mission. I also believe that deja vu is God like telling us, you're going the right direction. Remember, I showed you this? All right, here it is. Um, so I believe in that we often can have those experiences on these brain field trips where our spirit is in charge, and then we just allow our brain to show up and be actively involved in the situation. For me, that's a safe space. Safe spaces and safe people for me are people that are intentional with their words, in spaces that words are honored and that we use words with intention, because many people use their words very recklessly. I can speak for myself. When I was growing up, words were used to cause harm consistently, and words were used as they were weaponized as much as they could possibly be weaponized. Hey, Soror. So because of watching how people use words to cause harm, I wanted to be intentional in using my words to bring healing. And I wanted to be intentional in using my words to cause other people to think and cause people to pause before they allow words to come out of their mouth. Because we had that saying when we were growing up, like sticks and stones would break our bones, but words will never hurt me. And that's a lie. That's a full on ass lie. And, I really should research who even came up with that, because I bet you it was some white person who said that to some enslaved person or something, and was like, oh, don't worry about the words, like it feels very dismissive of how words can impact people. There are so many of us that are walking around who still hear the words and word curses that have been spoken over our lives. So for me, when I'm around people who use words recklessly, that's not a safe person. That's not a safe space for me, because you liable to say and do anything. Because mind you, by the time words come out of your mouth, let's talk about the process. Here's me being a teacher gonna teach. Okay. So, word curses will last a lifetime if not broken. Exactly. Um, the process that we use to decide what words come out of our mouth, like, we don't let out many of the thoughts that we have in our heads. So you have something bubble up in your spirit, you have it then go into your brain, and then you formulate that into a thought, and then you allow that to come out of your mouth. And then after it comes out of your mouth, there's even a revision process where you're like, is that what I really wanted to say? There are steps that you take before you allow words to come out of your mouth. So when people use words recklessly and when people use words to cause harm, that's a real intentional act. Like, I used to be so horrible back in the day. I was telling somebody yesterday, she was asking me, it was basically a dating conversation. I was like, girl, if you ask my high school sweetheart how reckless I used to be with my words, I used to cuss that man out. You hear me? Cuss him out, down, up, under, over, and through. Because I was raised in a home where words were used to cut you to the white meat. And I used to do that, like, really, really badly. And God bless him that he had so much patience with me. He would be like, it sounds like you're upset. I'm going to call you back later. And he would actually call back, because he shouldn't have been. I was horrible. So I really had to learn and understand the power of words. And it really came through me unpacking and undoing and processing the word curses that have been spoken over me. And being like, there are better words to describe this situation. So I said all that to say, when I'm thinking about a safe space, It's got to be a space where we honor the power and the impact of our words, because I'm not finna be dealing with people that just say anything. And then the other thing is people that's real reckless with their words. They're not dependable because you just talking. You are literally just talking. It is nothing worse than talking to somebody that just be talking. Like, I can't take nothing you say. Why, shut up. I can't take nothing you say seriously. I can't believe nothing you say. You are literally just talking and wasting your words. Because that's something else I'm not doing. I don't waste my words. There are many days that I don't even talk once in a day because I don't have anything to say. But when I do have something to say, my very, 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 very recommended advice is that you listen. Because I do not just be talking just to talk, ever. If I'm saying something, I am very much saying it with intention. I have very much been thinking about it. I am very much in tune with what God is saying to me. If I am talking, it is very wise to listen, because I'm not one of those people that's just reckless with my words. And I don't fool with people who are reckless with their words. So that's a big one for me when I'm thinking about a safe space. So curiosity, asking genuine questions, having genuine interest, as well as using words with intentionality and using words to heal. I would also say, so the question again, to refresh, that we're talking about is what factors do you need to have in place in order for a space to be considered safe? So what do you need to have and see and feel in order to be like, this is a safe space for me? So that's what we're talking about. So curiosity, intentionality with words, accountability. Accountability is important for me for a space to feel safe. So when I was talking about that space I was in earlier, that it wasn't a safe space, even though it was advertised as such, when I shared the impact of their actions on me, they basically were like, I mean, what you want me to do about it? And there's a lot to say about somebody who knows that they've caused harm and they're not willing to be accountable to that. Um, and it takes a very emotionally mature person to be able to say, my apologies. I did that. And you can even say, I feel like you can even say that wasn't my intention, but my God, I am sorry. I did not realize, I didn't know, I did not intend to do that. Like, how can I repair the damage that it has been caused? It takes a very emotionally mature person to be able to recognize that. So for me, if I'm looking for a safe space and I'm looking for safe people, they have to be people that are accountable and people that are willing to apologize when they are wrong, people that are willing to speak up for what's right even when no one else is looking. So enter integrity. They got to have integrity. You got to have integrity. Like, I can't, what's your moral compass? So that's definitely important for me for a safe space. I would also say a safe space for me is a place where I can learn and grow, um, where I don't have to always be the person who is the expert in the room and in the space. I can also, a safe space allows me, let me frame it like this. A safe space allows me to both give and receive. So I have the ability to be able to share and give, and that is honored. But I also have the ability to honor myself in that space and step back to be able to receive. That's a safe space for me too. Because a lot of times, especially in healing work and healing spaces, as well as education, um, and service, right? Bringing sorority life into this. it doesn't leave space for you to honor yourself. Like the programming and the messaging is do. And the messaging is not, we go through cycles. Like I've been talking about on my podcast that I'm in this cycle of repair, restoration, and preparation. So reparation, restoration, and preparation. And I'm in that cycle. And I'm in that cycle because I'm about to start a new cohort of Discover Your Destiny. So like I'm getting ready to go back into battle, if you will, because the way that I fight in all of this is equipping people to understand their purpose so that they are able to connect back to their mind, connect back to their spirit, trust themselves, be able to trust their decisions, and show up and create safe spaces for other people. That is my work in all of this. So I'm about to start that next month, and it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of capacity to be able to hold space for people and other people's lived experiences, as well as guiding people in this journey of connecting to yourself. Like it's a lot. So I have had to like shift and alter like the way that I show up for myself, because I have to pour into myself right now so that I have a full cup to pour into other people. So I had to recognize that I need intentional like time off, time down in between these cycles where I'm going back into battle. I have to give myself the time to repair and restore. And with a lot of spaces and organizations and communities, it doesn't give you the grace to be able to focus on yourself because it's constantly demanding more and more and more and more. So while, for instance, I'm very committed to the social action. I'm a Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, for anyone who was wondering. And we are a sorority of social action, political action, and like have this 5-point programmatic thrust, and like we doing the things, right? But also, I need us to be honoring our mental health and our capacity and creating space for people to be able to say, right now, I'm in a season where I need to focus on me. So for me, if that is not a message that is being given in a space, that's not a safe space for me, because what it says is that space is going to burn me out. I just talked to one of my sorors the other day, and I was like, "Are you at convention?" Because convention is going on right now. And I was like, "Are you at convention?" And she was like, I had to step away. It was too much. And she was very much involved in like the political activism and like really organizing and like doing so much work. And she was like, I couldn't do it anymore because it never ended. It was just more and more and more. So I really want us, in thinking about how we show up and create community and how we create spaces and how we band together to counter everything that is happening. I really want us to also make intentional room and space for the repairing and for the restoration. We are not unlimited resources. We do not have unlimited amounts of energy, capacity, brain, people, right? So it's important that in our messaging, where we're talking about fighting, that we're also talking about healing. Especially because once you go into battle, you're coming out with battle wounds and scars and lasting damage. You got to take time to go get wrapped up and heal. We can't stay out here with like, I got broken limbs. I have like, hey, I need a minute. Can I get it? I need to eat. I need to restore myself. I got to go to the bathroom. Like, we're humans. So if we're not talking about that, if for me, it feels very much like an oppressive space, even though the space may be with the best intentions, but the unintentional harm is work yourself to the bone and work yourself until you don't have any of yourself left. And I just adamantly reject all of that. So in my safe space, I need to have the ability to step away and care for myself and be cared for by others. Because that's the other thing I would say is healing is an individual journey, but healing is not meant to be done alone. It is meant to be held collectively. And unfortunately, what happens is we are so programmed for individualism that we often forget about the communal work that we need to do to support other people, because I don't know everything. Okay, I know that might be a news flash, okay, but also I don't know everything, right? None of us do. You know what you know, and you know what you know well, but we don't know everything. So if I don't know everything, then that means that I can learn something from somebody else's process and somebody else's journey. But if I am not in a communal space, I feel like I'm doing this by myself. And I feel like I'm out here on a limb and I don't know what I don't know. So I'm just figuring it all out. So I really do a lot of work to like connect us so that we have the spaces to share the things that have helped us and supported us and allowed us to share our collective genius. You know, I was talking to one of my homeboys the other day, and I was telling him that he's done a lot in teaching me about herbalism and teas and crystals and energy. And I was just like, I appreciate that, you know, because the scientist in me is here for it. That's what I want you to know. Okay. The scientist in me is here for it because there is scientific evidence regarding herbalism and even with crystals. Like, you know, I grew up in church and they told me, you know, and us and y'all that crystals are the devil's work, you know. And the scientist in me has always been curious about that because I know that everything is moving and everything has energy. All matter is made of atoms, and atoms are moving, whether it's vibrating in place because it's a solid, or a liquid, the atoms are freely flowing, or a gas, they're flowing everywhere, but everything has energy. So if there is an object, it is possible that that object's energy is impacting us who also have energy. We are also made up of atoms and cells, and we're a living organism, right? So we interact with energy in different ways. But my point of bringing that up is we have to be curious about. I have a podcast episode called Who Told You That Was Witchcraft? Because the messaging that we got about a lot of the practices that kept us grounded, especially historically and culturally, were demonized because they didn't want us to be able to have the power to know that we have power. You know? So decolonizing religion and thinking about it from a critical eye and really asking ourselves where we got messaging from is important. So when I say curiosity is something that's important for a safe space, we should be able to ask questions in a safe space. I should be able to ask, you know, and not questions to necessarily challenge, but questions to understand. You know, why do you think that? And what evidence do you have to support that? And like asking questions, definitely not just taking things at face value, which is interesting because that's what I did for a lot of my life. I was definitely trained through school, through religion, through my home. Just, you don't ask questions. You just do what you are told. Be obedient. That is the programming that was received in my world. And it is very dangerous. It is a very dangerous programming to tell someone to just be obedient, because what we do is we remove critical thinking. And when we remove critical thinking, then now we are subject to whatever is being told to us. And just because something is being told to us by people who are in charge, or people who have titles, or people that seemingly have our best interest at heart, that doesn't mean that it's true. And that's a lot of what we're learning right now. A lot of us are processing the realities of the United States and the realities of the ways that the United States has historically shown up, the ways that the United States is showing up currently. We are processing that and realizing that the things that we were told were lies, because we were told to just blindly believe these things. If it's in a book, it must be true. If it is, being said on the news, it must be true. If it is on a caption that looks like block lettering, it must be true. Think about our parents right now. This AI and the algorithm is tearing them to pieces right now. To pieces. Our parents are down rabbit holes that it's like, you got to come out of there. And them not even realizing that they have control of their algorithm, that you have the ability to reset your algorithm. You can follow, unfollow, you can stop giving attention towards things that are not feeding your spirit. Like, we have control over that to some extent. So we gotta tap back into that critical thinking, or if we never had it, learn it. Learn how to critically think. But you know what the other thing is? You can't critically think if you're in survival mode. You can't even do it. It's not biologically possible. You can't even access that part of your brain. So the priority has to be in stabilizing our nervous system so that we can biologically access the part of our brain that allows us to critically think. Because critical thinking lives in the upper portion of our brain, in our cortex and in our prefrontal cortex. And those are areas that we're not able to access when all we're trying to figure out is, am I safe? So, if you have gotten this far, thank you. Please tell me, if you've gotten this far, tell me your favorite thing to do that brings you joy. For me, it's blowing bubbles. So that's what I'm about to go do. But also, please comment and tell me the elements that you need in order for a space to be considered safe. Whatever that looks like and sounds like to you. If you will please let me know that in the comments so that I can more tailor the spaces that I am working on. All right. So I appreciate y'all for listening. I know I don't be on here too often because it's wild over here, but I would love for y'all to come hang out with me on YouTube. I am building a world over there that I'm really proud of, and building a community over there with the Frolicking Truth that I'm really excited about. And soon I'm going to start having guests on the Frolicking Truth. It's going to be like a subset, because we need to really talk. We really need to talk, and we really need to connect and know safe people that we're able to listen to, who understand what is actually happening. So look out for that in the very near future. All right. I'll see y'all later. Bye.